Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome, dear viewers, to a new edition of your program Restore Hope. Today we are going to talk about the Houthis selling Iranian weapons to Al-Qaeda, said by Saudi diplomat. And as usual, we are going to have some introductory information. As Yemen's war enters its third year, a two-day workshop addressing the military, political, and humanitarian challenges of the conflict warned of al-Houthi ties to Iran and their impact on the legitimate institutions in Yemen. Saudi and Yemeni diplomats both echoed the urgency for political solution and invited the Houthis to the tables as a political party and not an armed militia. The conference in Washington, organized by the Gulf Research Center, featured Saudi and Yemeni officials as well as U.S. defense experts and former U.S. ambassadors to Sana'a. The meetings took place on Thursday and Friday at the National Council for U.S.-Arab Relations and at the Army-Navy Club, respectively. Saudi Arabia's ambassador to Yemen, Mohammed Al-Jaber, stressed the need for a fair political solution to the conflict. We invite the Houthis to the negotiating table, and we are more than open to a political solution, he said. Saudi diplomat defined Riyadh's role as non-discriminatory and non-sectarian, stating that it is said or its aid goes to all the legitimate parties in Yemen. He stressed that Hodeidah port needs to be under the control of the international community so that aid can be distributed to the Yemeni people. And Yemen's ambassador to Washington, Ahmed Awad bin Mubarak, defined the goal of political solution that preserves the Yemeni state and institutions in ending the conflict. Mubarak maintained that the Saudi-led coalition forces are pushing for political solution to the war. And in that capacity, Mubarak said that Saudi Arabia's decision to intervene was the only option to prevent non-state actor from taking over Yemen. And former U.S. Ambassador General Feinstein stressed the three goals for Saudi Arabia in Yemen. First is the need to preserve legitimate Yemeni government, and second is to prevent further Houthi and Iranian expansion, while the third goal is to protect Saudi-Yemeni border. These goals were reiterated by the head of the Gulf Research Center, Abdulaziz Sagar, and who warned about letting Yemen turn into another Lebanon with violent non-state actor Houthis dominating the country's security forces. And Sagar said that the coalition is trying to end the war, but Iran is preventing it by financing violent non-state actors. The two-day conference framed Saudi Arabia's military role in Yemen as one of necessity and not choice, and noted increased U.S.-Saudi defense cooperation following U.S. Secretary of Defense James Mattis' visit. It highlighted the challenging humanitarian and economic terrains in the conflict, without, however, providing a clear exit strategy. In this regard, I would like to welcome my dear and distinguished guest who joins me here in the studio, Mr. Hisham Al-Ghannam, political analyst. Mr. Hisham, welcome to the program.
Very glad to be here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Mr. Hisham, let's shed light and talk about the military, political, and the humanitarian challenges of the conflict in Yemen.
As you mentioned in your introduction, the Saudis would like to reach a solution, a political solution to this Yemeni crisis. That the Houthi, with his alignment with Iran, was responsible for it, and a main cause to the disaster of Yemen, and this civil war that we're seeing now in Yemen. The Saudis offered the Houthi several initiatives and wanted to reach a reasonable political solution. However, this nexus, the Houthi-Iranian nexus, prohibits any solution to this war or a peaceful resolution. Ultimately, the Saudis would like to see their backyard, Yemen, peaceful and prosperous
and stable.
The challenges are a lot. I mean, I cannot just limit them to few obstacles or challenges. But one of the main challenges, if I had to choose one, is the Houthis. Efforts to stop humanitarian aid to reach many parts of Yemen, and to cause this chaotic situation that will prohibit helping the people of Yemen. The Saudis would like this to end as soon as possible. However, without stopping this channel between the funder and the guarantor, the Iranian funder and guarantor to the Houthis, this would not happen. Thus, we would, the Saudis would like to see a more international and more firm approach from the international community, mainly the US, towards Iran and Iran's attempts to destabilize the region as a whole.
And what we've seen nowadays when it comes to the children infected with the diseases is the result of this kind of violations by Houthis in stopping the humanitarian aid?
Yes, definitely. I mean, even Western sources, I wouldn't speak about the Saudi sources. Even Western sources have confirmed that the Houthi received tons of cash and weapons from the Iranians. The Houthi seems to be careless of what happens to Yemen and doesn't seek. Basically, he's seeking the destruction of Yemen to achieve political power. This is what non-state actors do. This is what armed militias that do not view states as nation states with a strong central power do usually. They destroy the states that they evolve in. They see themselves more powerful than the legitimate state. They do not see other actors competing with them on a fair ground for political victories. No, they resolve their differences with their partners and colleagues in Yemen by force. And this cannot continue, and Saudi would not accept this, even if this war takes more time than it does right now. However, the Saudi state takes one of the most burden national security weight in the world. The Saudi state invests highly in its military, but without a more firm, as I said, international approach, this will continue. And this is not a Saudi responsibility alone. I mean, you cannot just leave these straits and seas and water channels
to be under the
control of a militia that is controlled by a foreign state.
That's great. Talking about the non-state actions, as you mentioned, Mr. Hisham, how do you see these kinds of non-state actions represented by Houthis and the legitimate institutions in Yemen, its impact on the legitimacy?
Of course, I mean, you see this everywhere in the world. When you have an armed militia that it's outside of the control of the central state, this is what happens. You have this chaotic situation. The state cannot function normally. You cannot have any fixed plans for economic improvement or development. You have failure on every aspect that states usually compete for. Thus, no reasonable or rational state accept that militias outside the state control have this power. States, I mean, by definition, by the simple definition, have this monopoly on power. If this monopoly on power was shared by other parties, then it doesn't become a state. It becomes something. You have these disfusions, and you have these conflicts, and you have civil wars, and the Saudis, I mean, and the Saudis and the Arabic coalition know that it's in the interest of everybody in the region, including the Yemenis, even the Houthis, that Yemen becomes stable and prosperous. However, when you have this channel that didn't stop until now, and this flow of weapons and money, then you would still, and even recruiting children to fight and engage in war conduct is something that no one would accept.
That's great. If we go back to the negotiations, Mr. Hisham, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, the Gulf, also the GCC countries, provided Houthis with many golden opportunities to be involved, let's say, in the political process in Yemen, provided that they cut their relationship with Iran. They refused to do so. Why?
In a nutshell, I guess they got the message wrong. They interrupted. They thought that these initiatives, the Saudi initiatives, are because that the Saudis are weak and they want to stop this war because they are weak. They got the message totally wrong. The Saudis do not act on this way. The Saudis wanted this war to end with a peaceful and a political solution that the Yemenis would accept because of the interest of everybody. However, the Houthis got the message wrong for some reason, and they thought that that the Saudis did a mistake. No legitimate, no rational state in the whole world would accept that you have an armed militia and your southern border without acting. This is what the Saudis did, and this is what any state would do in the whole world. The Houthis should know that you cannot just hold arms and threat the borders of another state and expect the other state to negotiate with you before you drop your arms. And I would it seems hard to the other problem, it seems hard to have a dialogue with someone like Al-Houthi because of this ideological mindset that he has and this Iranian support. The Saudis and the Gulfis with them are very pragmatic. These are pragmatic states that looks into interests more than ideas or ideologies, and this is what they want to perform at the end. They want a prosperous and a stable and a peaceful Yemen, and they want their states also to be safe. No one would accept the Houthi to be there, even if this war takes more time than it does right now.
Than expected.
Yes.
Mr. Hisham, of course, there is a great tendency on the part of some Saudi and Yemeni diplomats that echo the urgency for political solutions. Are the Houthis invited to the political solutions as political party in the past, and what about the future?
I mean, the Saudis have their doors open. If they want to act, if they want to engage in this political process, the Saudis would not object. They would accept them. However, without, as I said, and I stress on this, without cutting this link between the Houthis and the Iranians, nothing can be achieved. The Houthis will continue their unrealistic actions and dreams. This war has no goal for the Houthi other than disturbing stability and disturbing
spreading chaos.
And spreading chaos. No one in Yemen, even the ones that align themselves with the Houthi, are gaining from this war. They should understand that Saudi is and this Arabic coalition, these are very capable states. They can continue. They have a longer endurance than compared to Al-Houthi and his allies, and they will continue this war unless the Houthi really bring real compromises on the table.
That's great. What about the conference in Washington, Mr. Hisham, organized by the Gulf Research Center, featured Saudi and Yemeni officials, as well as U.S. defense experts and former U.S. ambassadors to Sana'a?
This is, I guess, this is part of explaining the message that we're basically saying right here to the West, and trying to absorb this this attack from certain NGOs and media outlets in the West on Saudi regarding this war. Thus, such efforts are very important and crucial, and explaining the real picture on what's happening on the ground, and also explaining what the Saudis are providing to Yemen, and what the Saudis are willing also to provide more to Yemen and to other Arab states. I would encourage such efforts, and I would also invite certain Western groups and NGOs to come and see what's really happening and the real situation in Yemen. Showing the Houthi as a victim is unreal and is very and it's disguising the reality that's what's happening on the ground, and this shouldn't happen. We need more efforts, because this side was really lacking from our media policy at this moment. We need more efforts, and even engaging think tanks on serious discussions on the Yemeni war, and giving them the status they need and the facts they need. We have certain facts on the ground. We have proven evidence that the Iranians are supporting the Houthis. We have proven evidence that the Houthis are receiving weapons from Iran. These needs to be shown and illustrated to the West. We cannot. Let's give at least even our enemies the benefit of the doubt, and let's try to throw the ball at their court, rather than just waiting and feeling that we were treated unfairly.
Great. Again, I will get back to the political solution, Mr. Hisham. Saudi Arabia's ambassador to Yemen, Mohammed Al-Jaber, stressed the need for a fair political solution to the conflict in Yemen. Is there any possibility, in your opinion, in the near future for a political solution?
I do not see this happening in the near future. Things could change, but however, this is a card that Iran use very effectively, and and the support to the Houthis is not something new. Iran was planning this war from a long time. It's not something new that started with this current war. No, this was happening for a long time right now, and the Saudis restrained themselves from engaging and thought that Iran would stop at a certain point, but this did not happen. What I see happening is even now with the U.S. President visit, that there should be a more general and grand strategy from the